Listen to this episode if you want a masterclass in how to build a mission-driven brand. I talk a lot about building a value-focused brand, building community comes from values, why every brand really needs some sort of mission behind it in order to be successful. And today we're talking a real-life case study. We are met with the founder of Dip, a hyper-sustainable hair care and body care company. We talk about how to actually use your mission and your values behind your brand as a business growth strategy. How do you implement it? How do you choose it? How do you communicate it to your ideal customers? As well as we talk about sustainability and greenwashing in business and marketing. To wrap up this episode, we touch on AI from a values and a sustainable lens. I hope you enjoyed this episode. It is a masterclass in how to use your values as a business growth strategy. Without further ado, welcome, Kate. Kate, there's a section on your website that says advice we ignored. When did you decide that your brand was going to be built a little bit differently than the rest?
Yeah, that section always gets a lot of attention when someone finds it. So I started Dip in 2021. At the time, the wagon wheels had already been entrenched in what sustainability has to be and what the pathway to success had to be. So it was like, make everything all natural. And then the other part of it was like, make sure you hand everything out to influencers and you celebrate the people that don't pay for your product. You digitally market and email them to death. I wanted to take a step back when I started the company and say like, okay, everyone else is doing this big, strong digital push. Everyone else is kind of going in the same direction. Let's see like how contrarian we can be and how to build this in a way that gets people to notice, because so much of marketing is getting someone to notice. Instead of just noticing the product, I wanted people to notice the how.
Yeah, I love that. And it's something that we say a lot around here is when we look at your industry, everybody's over here. How can we kind of put our stake in the ground in the white space that nobody's doing? So I really love that you chased that. And how do you feel like that actually being able to set yourself apart helped you grow to the business that you have today?
One of the biggest things that we did was when everyone was pushing to get on Amazon, we decided we were not going to be on Amazon. Again, it's like a contrarian counterculture way to be. And I discovered that the real work of sustainability was happening in person, not on Amazon. What I saw was that Amazon was cannibalizing all different kinds of small mom and pop shops, but the ones that really had the biggest sustainable impact were the refill stores and the zero waste stores. And I thought, like, how do I protect them? The way I can protect them is to not have them compete with something that's open 24 hours a day, and to keep these conversations that happen in store alive, and to be able to use my site to drive people into store so that it's kind of a win-win. It's a win-win for me because I have someone who's excited about Dip in the first place selling it. I didn't need influencers because I had people who were like heavily invested in the brand selling it on their shelves. And then it was a win for the small stores because they were protected. Like I protected their sales. They didn't become window shopping for Amazon. They became the destination. And I think remembering everyone has a little bit of how they want to be and how they actually are. And I see that a lot in sustainability. It's important to remember that human behavior will take the path of least resistance. It will add to cart faster than it'll get in a car and drive somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like those zero waste stores and those refill stores are still some of the retail stores that are performing really well. And I know that you talk about how they really are reviving local economies. Can we talk about that a little bit, where you are basically marketing your product through the lens of, hey, go to all of these stores to go and purchase? What kind of brought you to wanting to do that?
It started with meeting one refill store owner and seeing how her life had brought her to that point where she's like, I'm fed up. I want to open this store that solves the problem. I started with Deanna from Good Bottle Refill Shop here in New Jersey. And I met her in 2019, and it totally blew my mind that that kind of shopping even existed. And then through Deanna putting Dip on her shelves, then I started to meet all these other ones, Laura at GoGo in Maine, and then, Jamie at Philip Buttercup in Costa Mesa. And then the list goes on and on. Diana from Sage Refill in Nashville. And so you started to see that this movement, it just breeds really interesting, dedicated women, mostly, that are doing really amazing things and going against the tide also. They're really building something that just hasn't been done before. I see the refill movement as like very rock and roll, and I'm very drawn to that because in a world where everyone's saying like everything needs to happen fast and remove all the friction points, they're like bringing all the friction back in. And I'm kind of here for it because I think we could all slow down a little bit.
Absolutely. And the audience and the customers that are going to those refill shops are also in for that movement. And they're mission driven and they're value focused, and they are willing to kind of, go the extra mile or the extra inch or whatever to make sure that they're standing within their values. Something that I get a lot when I talk to brands, I am so pro being a value-centered brand. We talk a lot about building ride or die communities around your brand. And the only way to do that is we share values. But I have a lot of pushback from brands when I first say that, saying, this is a personal mission. These are personal values of mine. My customer doesn't care. I know how I respond to that, but I would love to hear what your reaction to something like that is.
It depends on how you view the lens of values. Are your values through the lens of politics, or your values through the lens of change, right? And so for me, the lens that I look at everything is like, I want small stores to stay open because they enrich communities. That is bipartisan. I think everyone wants that because everyone lives somewhere and everyone wants to see their communities thrive, and, their firefighters taken care of, their teachers taken care of, their librarians taken care of, their roads taken care of. So like that, I found that's the bridge there. And then the other thing that is very, very values driven for us is plastic. I am very much rooted in getting people to remove plastic as much as they can from their lifestyle. And it starts with shampoo and conditioner for a lot of our customers. But then because they've walked into a refill store more often than not, they start to see the other things there. And I think plastic, sometimes it kind of gets, I don't want to say hijacked, or it gets owned by left-leaning politics.
Yeah.
But I think for me, it's a bridge because everyone lives on Earth and everyone is affected by the plastic crisis, whether you see it through accumulation or you see it through the health hazard that it is.
Totally. And I agree with you that values doesn't have to be politics. I think that when we think values, especially in the world that we live in, everybody just goes right to politics.
Totally.
That there's so many values outside of politics that we can talk about. You're very right that it's bipartisan. No matter what, there are people on each side that care about microplastics in their stuff. They care about chemicals. They care about sustainability. That if you just kind of go off of those pieces, I love that you are kind of in that bipartisan place, because it is a tough line to kind of walk sometimes. It's one of those pieces that you can have a value-centered brand. You can have a mission-driven brand that doesn't have to be a political brand. It can be health and wellness. It can be quality. It can be, empowerment. All of those things are values. You just chose sustainability, which sometimes can have a political lens to it,
right.
But it doesn't always have to be political. And I think that is somewhere where people get nervous. I don't love to be political in my business either. And I think it's one of those places that people get nervous, but your customers do care about something, and you can take it from that bipartisan lens.
Totally. You can't save the world with half the population. You have to invite everyone to the table and meet them where they're at. And sustainability right now gets a lot of eye rolls from people, right? Like they're fed up with it.
Yeah.
And so, finding the human connection with literally anyone and drawing them into the reason that it's important has to be bipartisan. It has to be something that everyone can get on board with, because right now everything is so divisive that it's like,
it's tiring.
So hot. You can't touch anything without it being hot. The right move, I guess, for a lot of people is to like pull their hand away, when something gets too hot. But if you stay kind of headstrong in the reason you do something and the why and how you can make it the most inclusive that you can, I think that's really important, even when you face the pressures of people tugging you one way or the other.
Yes. And I wholeheartedly agree with that. It's funny. I actually started 10, 12 years ago. I started a sustainable blog. I was a blogger and I started selling sustainable products online. It was like my gateway into this world, which is really cool to talk to you now in that world and still talking about this. And this was something that I talked about 12 years ago before the world was so divisive, is like, you don't have to choose. Like sustainability really can be for everybody. And I love it that you can't change the world with 50% of the population. I say that all the time. We forget that 50% goes one way, 50% goes the other. And so I can totally see where you're there. I would love to kind of talk a little bit about the greenwashing side. This was something that I really tried to tackle when I went back in my sustainability world. And it's something that working with brands all the time, I'm toying the line of saying, hey, I don't know if we can really say that in your marketing. And so when it comes to greenwashing, what is kind of your definition of greenwashing, and what are some of the major areas that people can look out for? Greenwashing
to me is just dishonesty to seduce a greener customer. I don't think you have to be a perfectly sustainable product. Being perfectly sustainable is very, very difficult. There's manufacturing constraints that come in. There's availability, sourcing restraints that come in. Then there's like values on how things do get sourced. Besides just being available, then it's like the how and the why and the where and the labor. So greenwashing to me is cloaking a decision you made and not standing by it. That might be questionable. And, the thing that people come after us for is we use synthetic fragrance in our products. And there's like quite a few reasons for that. And a lot of them are rooted in sustainability. But because people associate synthetic with bad and natural with good, sometimes I get accused of greenwashing. I'm like, I've come out with a silver platter. This is why we do it the way we do it. The reason why, for anyone listening, is that a lot of essential oils, when they're sourced, first of all, you can't protect the labor or the land, but a lot of plants are cold pressed with pesticides on the plant. You never really know if you're getting essential oils with or without pesticides. Those pesticides don't show up on the ingredient list. Whereas with synthetic fragrance, you have everything. It's regulated, and everything that you need to know that's in that fragrance is in there. We used a huge fragrance house that has some of the best chemists in the world to create very clean, very high standard, to Credo standards fragrances. But like, I get called a greenwasher left and right because of this decision, even though the decision comes from like 10 other observations leading up to it. And I try and make it like very known to people why we do this and here are the layers behind it.
Yeah. How do you handle backlash like that from an outwards perspective when you know that you have these values and you have, reasons for all of your decisions?
So I give a little bit of an explanation and then I say, maybe we're not the brand for you. It's okay. I adore the founder of High Bar. She's a really good friend of mine. She's very much in sustainability for all the right reasons. And I recommend High Bar. They have a different path for how they've built their products. And I'm happy to recommend something else that's plastic free. You know what I mean? And especially someone where the founder is as kind as Nora from High Bar. It's very cool that we have this relationship, and she sends people over to dip all the time. I'm fine with losing a customer if they are determined to misunderstand or so deep rooted in what their own values are. Like, it's not for me to decide what someone else's values are. If their line in the sand is fragrance, we still have fragrance free. But, I'm happy to recommend them to someone who more suits their needs.
Totally. Something that I hear you saying a lot of is like the conviction that you have in what you're building. And I think this is really important when people are building something that's value centered, that that you made the decision that makes the most sense for your values and for your business, that you have to be able to like be convicted in what you're building and what you have. And if people don't align, that's okay. But your customers will feel that conviction and your customers will align with it as well.
It's almost impossible, I guess, unless you're chapstick, which now even I've seen people turn on chapstick, like to really make something for everyone that's going to make everyone happy. And you see in sustainability, if anyone out there is starting a sustainable brand, you have to go in with the mindset that you're never going to be sustainable enough for the trolls. And you don't know whether those trolls are 11 years old digitally. They don't really know what they're talking about, or they might be semi-educated on cherry-picked data from an article or a blog. You don't know where their education about something came from. As a business owner, you know everything inside and out. Like, none of the decisions come lightly. None of them come fast, I don't think. So you have to remember, like for me, I have to go in a mental time machine. Like, this is why I made this decision and this is why we're staying with it. And if new information comes around where I need to change something, then I'll change it.
Yeah, without a doubt. It was one of the reasons that I ultimately shut down my blog when I was doing it. I ended up just enjoying actually building the business more, which is why I do what I do now. But I had that as well, as I would choose a lane, and it was, you could never be either sustainable enough or natural enough or non-toxic enough, that at a certain point you just have to say, I'm doing what I think is right. I have a lot of clients that are worried about being controversial. They're worried about, saying a value that doesn't actually speak to their audience, but your audience cares about your values. That's how you create your audience. So for you, when you talk about your values, it's just like any community, whether it be a church or anybody locally. Like, you sit at a chamber of commerce and you say, this is my community. What do we have? We have some sort of similar values, which is why we live here, which is why we're taking some of these actions. When you have those values, you just have to stick with them and understand that you're not always going to have everybody agree. And that's why you have values there, because the right people will actually enjoy it more.
And like, I don't need to stick to them to a fault either. So if someone brings something to the table where I'm like, oh my God, I never considered that. more often than not, as a business owner, you've considered it.
Yeah.
But like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think of it that way. Like then, you have to be willing to change also. But I find that people that assess a company within 5 minutes or 30 seconds have something like angry to say online. It's like they probably weren't your customer in the first place. And the amount of energy that you need to put in to try and change someone, an anonymous person online, is just not really worth it.
Absolutely. And 5 minutes of their time is generous of what they're giving you. Normally they listen to about 3 seconds of something. It's ridiculous. So if people are saying, all right, we do have these values out there, whether they are health or wellness or sustainability or durability or whatever that might be, they're out there saying, how do I start to integrate this moving forward as a part of my growth, as a part of my decision making, as a part of my marketing? Where do you feel is a good place for them to start?
Well, it depends on what you're selling, right? So you have to figure out where your customer is and where they're kind of excited to find you. I knew it was a zero waste stores because I shop zero waste. I refill. I am that person that has made every change besides hair care.
It's the last thing I don't have. I'm so excited to try yours because I don't have zero waste natural hair care.
Yeah. So you have to think of like, I'm selling whatever you're selling. Where is the person that buys that? Like, what are they reading? What are they looking at? What's their algorithm feeding them? You kind of have to round out people and see, what are they expecting from me? Are they expecting something very serious? Are they expecting something like fun or silly? And how do I want to present that thing out into the world? Like for me, for Dip, I am from New Jersey. Everyone I know is sarcastic. Like most of the brand is like pretty silly and sarcastic. And I'm just not. When I see like kind of hoity-toity, sustainability, beauty, all that stuff, I'm like, I don't know a single woman that is like this. The women I know are like really smart and funny and weird. And so I designed the brand for those people who kind of just feel left out of this like very polished sustainability landscape that's out there. But I mean, I like going to like the small diehard stores. Like say if you're selling something for runners, go to the runners. Runners are everywhere. Like I think people are doing way more in real life than they are digitally right now. I know it sounds not like that, but I think people are digitally fatigued. They're craving their communities back. Whatever real life community is excited or might be excited about your product is really where I would start.
Yeah, that's very interesting because what I hear you saying is you started with your values and then you identified which customers would relate to that and who they were, what they were doing, knowing them really well. And that's where you started marketing and selling to because you knew that's where your community already was.
And, in sustainability, you have to like watch and see where the sentiment is, right? Because I know that some of the bar brands that have gone on Amazon are having a really tough time because the sustainability community is not excited about giving their money to Amazon. They're way more excited to like give their money to the small business owner in their town. And so I think a mistake a lot of sustainable brands that I've seen do is like some have gone into Ulta and some have gone into Sephora. It's not that they forget, like maybe it's because they weren't the customer in the first place and they were trying to sell a sustainable brand at a time when sustainability was hot instead of like actually living and breathing what sustainability is, which I do, my husband does, and my whole team does.
Yeah, I see that. And I mean, if I think about even my friends, they rarely go into those stores and we all have very similar values to what you're talking about, that we aren't going into the Ultas and the Sephoras of the world. They aren't even close to where I live because we live like so far away from town because that's what we like to do. So we think about that and it really goes back to just having such a strong understanding of your ideal customer. And when you really dive deep into it, and because you are surrounded by those people, you're able to say, oh, I'm selling to you. How do you do it? You kind of get involved in that. And for anybody listening, if you don't have a circle that is your ideal customer, you do have to get in front of them to some regard. Is you have to figure out, how can I communicate with them? How can I ask them questions? How can I learn about what their lifestyle looks like?
Totally. And then you have to find out how they're solving the problem you solved before they found you. Many women that I spoke with, they were like, I tried bars before and I don't love them. And I was like, okay, this will be the last bar you ever try. I promise. You have to find out what existed before you and how you're solving some sort of problem for them.
Yeah, and that can also gauge your marketing. Like I see you using that messaging in your marketing all of the time. I'm so excited to try it because I have tried a million bars and I gave up on them. I used whatever, and I obviously have curly hair, and I know you market a lot to that as well. I found that curly hair was a really hard one to find. I literally looked like I wiped olive oil in my hair with some of these, like, oh, I look so bad. And so I can't wait to try it because you're very right. And what you have done is you identified that problem. You saw your ideal customer saying that, and you hit it head on in your marketing. If I would have seen that prior to talking with you, I would have said, oh, maybe I'll give this one a shot because they clearly know that this is a problem that they're solving.
Yeah, I just love hair. I'm so excited that I started a hair care brand because I could look at hair, talk about hair all day long. And I think that's another important thing when you're starting a company. You have to be able to talk about this at length forever. It is part of my joy. Like I joke with my husband that I've had this 12-year-long Pinterest page that just says hair plans. And it's like all the things I imagine, I fantasize about doing with my hair. And it's been going on for so long. It's just thousands and thousands of pins of just fun hair that I love.
If it's okay, I'm going to interrupt this podcast for 30 quick seconds to let you know about the Founders Cafe. It is my completely free podcast community where you can gain access to bonus resources, gain access to me and free coaching calls, as well as build a network of other business owners just like yourself. Business ownership is a lonely game, and we might as well build community, build a network, and have a space to collaborate. We can bring this conversation and all the other conversations we have on this podcast over into this free podcast community and make this a two-way street. I would love to answer your questions there, connect with you, see you on our next free coaching call. Click the link in the show notes and you'll find the link there. I say this as well as if you are starting a brand and you don't want to dream about it at night and you don't want to fantasize about it in the shower and while you're going to bed, if you don't want to think about the industry or the product that you're talking about all day long, it's probably not the brand for you.
It's probably not. And you know what? There are those, I don't want to say boring industries, but there are industries that are necessary that people don't get that excited to talk about. But I happen to just fall into one that I could talk about all the time.
And I think a lot of those sleepy industries right now, the new brands that are breaking out are the fun ones, like Graza olive oil. Olive oil is boring to kind of think about. But if you make a fun brand around it, you totally can build it, which your branding and everything is so much fun as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. Something that I hear a lot of what you're talking about is that a lot of your sales are wholesale partners is something that you guys have a lot of. How do you balance wholesale with also having 50% off because of wholesale pricing as opposed to selling in a D2C capacity?
The trick is that I try and never undercut my retailers. So, whatever the MSRP is for a product, I try and maintain that on the site. So we don't run a lot of sales. But there is, for first order purchase, people are usually buying shampoo and conditioner together. We have $10 off that bundle just to get them in. But when someone receives their package, inside is a QR code that says, hey, there might be a store close to you. And check it out, save on shipping when you need to replenish. With the retailers, I don't know how to say this in a nice way. There's so many brands that build their whole livelihood on the backs of small stores for discovery and then go big and then leave their retailers behind.
Yeah.
Or there's another kind of death spiral pricing that happens where brands discount so much. You see it a lot with TikTok shop brands that they discount so much that their retailers couldn't possibly ever sell anything. So price protection is very, very real for me. That's a huge strategy. Whereas you kind of see D2C is a lot of brands are trying to mitigate the acquisition costs by doing really high sales, hefty sales. And that is starting to cannibalize, the sales velocity at retail. So if I can give any advice to anyone or any kind of wisdom is if you protect your pricing, it works. Don't be scared to protect your pricing. Not everyone is a discount shopper. And the people that pay full price end up being your evangelists. They're not the ones that are going to be oh, your competitor's on sale, I'll try that instead. They're going to stay. And I think that is important. Just as I see so many brands closing their doors right now because of this discount pricing spiral, I want you to just protect your price.
Yeah, have a reason why your price is the way that it is, and then just have a brand and values that back it up that your audience will pay for it. I think a lot of people push their own pricing elasticity on their business where they're I'm a discount shopper, so I want my business to be as affordable as possible. I hate when someone comes to me trying to be as affordable as possible, meaning they're always going to have a 50% discount. The first thing that goes on in many consumers' brains when you start running 40, 50, 60, 70% off discounts all the time is that this is a really low quality product that you just have a massive markup on. And so you're actually actually shooting yourself in the foot. You're over discounting and thinking that it's actually a benefit, but you're so right. I say that all the time is I'm in a store and I almost always know I can buy something online for cheaper, but is that actually the value that you want to have? Not everybody is only going to buy from you because of your price point, as long as your marketing and your branding and your values can kind of back that up.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Like the sales in store are so strong with dip that some very small stores that are, 400 square feet or less, some of them are doing $50,000, $100,000 a year in just dip sales. So dip pays their rent. That's built in a community of us and our retailers, and we get them together for different events. And we do really cool stuff with our retailers. And we're very, very much, I feel like, grateful and indebted to my retailers for being such great partners. And so when you think of your retail that way as a partnership and not as like, oh, thank God I put it on their shelf and like, I'm going to go now sell as much as I can D2C, then you have a very different kind of ecosystem for your product where it does thrive at its MSRP.
It's really interesting because you basically are using your retailers as ambassadors as opposed to having influencers. So you nurture them into these communities and you do events and you build a relationship with them because clearly your stuff sells and you're sending so many people to them because that's your whole marketing. You guys have this community. You have these people that love you. You're basically operating as their ambassador and they're operating as yours. Yeah. And it's like this symbiotic relationship that you've been able to build, and they can see that it's paying off.
Yeah. And I love them. Like I know them as human beings, and it's in a digital world. It is so cool to be able to round people out as human beings. Like, I know the store owners. I've been to probably 100 different refill stores. I know their merchandising, their children, their husbands, and it's very old school kind of salesman stuff, but it's really was the fiber of commerce for so long before the internet. I like that. It gives actually my company a bigger sense of purpose because I enjoy it. I enjoy like picking up the phone and checking in with retailers. One of the people on the team, Jackie, she used to own a refill store. She sold a lot of dip, and then she was moving from where her store was located. So I brought her in on the team. She went from store owner to now employee, and she's killing it. She's so great. And all the refill stores know her. So it's a different way to start a company. While everyone's going AI, we're like rehumanizing. But I think that's what sustainability is. I don't think the sustainable industry loves AI, and I'm not anti-AI. I think it's just a tool and we have to be careful how we use it, just like anything else. But like, I beg anyone to start a business to like beat the lonelies by finding the community. And if you can do that, it's a lot more fun to run.
Oh, absolutely. Business is a lonely game. If it's just you in your little mind and your brain trying to build all the time, if you have all these other people, it's so much more fun. Networking and having colleagues and having customers that you really love makes such a difference. It's also why you should build a business that you want to talk about and with ideal customers that are similar to people that you already spend time around, because it'll also make you want to spend more time with your customers and talk about it and know them much better as well. And I really love everything you can see when I talk to you goes back to those same values. And that's really how it has to be, is it truly is the core pillar of your decision making, of how you operate and of how your whole business has been able to grow that way as well. I think that's really special. When we look at this, I see that you take the approach more of building with your values at the forefront, as opposed to just profit, just sales, just revenue. How can we build more of these relationships? And you're so right. In the advent of AI, I really feel that the businesses that are going to win are the ones that use it for efficiency and use it as a tool. However, the customers across any industry right now are not ready for AI everything. We see this with the Super Bowl ads that just came out that were AI. The backlash is not worth it. Like, people aren't ready for their marketing to be AI. People aren't ready for your website to be fully AI. We can use it in certain ways, but the people that are going to rehumanize and build these communities are the ones that are going to win.
Totally. AI is such a powerful tool for a small business, especially when with limited resources or a solopreneur. I think about back in, the early 2000s, or even up until maybe 10 years ago, when you had to produce a commercial. It could be a $30,000 to $100,000, even more endeavor, right? And think about how many people you'd have on set and how many bottles of water would be drunk among, all of the cast and cameramen and, marketers, everyone that's on site. So like, I think eventually people are going to start to see that. I always use the bottle of water because everyone's talking about every time you make a video, it consumes a bottle of water. I think that sometimes we have to reframe how we think about AI because it's here to stay. And if we could think that maybe you could make the argument that it's an amazing tool. It's actually a tool that hurts huge conglomerate businesses that really got to gatekeep making amazing commercials, and think about how powerful it's going to be in a few years for small businesses, or even today, if you really know how to use it to create commercials as well. And the amount of water bottles you're saving that way, you have to reframe it. Otherwise, you're going to be very depressed.
Well, and it comes down to the fact of it's where the world is going. It's similar to when the internet came around, is all these people said that it was going to ruin the world. And some people may say that the internet has ruined what they knew prior to. However, it's where the world is going. It's where the world is at this point. Yeah. And so you can either adapt and reframe to change your mindset from the doom and gloom, or you can kind of fall behind in some ways, and you can use it within your own values and your own rights. So however you want to do it, but it is where the world is going. I totally agree.
AI can be such a powerful tool for a small business.
Yeah.
But I don't think people are like ready for it yet. It's like, my husband and I, we met at art school. We met at SCAD in Savannah. And so
I have a friend that went there.
Oh, no way. Awesome. And so you think about all of these specialized jobs in film and TV that kind of are evaporating because of AI, but I don't know whether creativity evaporates. Do you know what I mean? Maybe it's the hands-on stuff, but maybe the creativity that all of these people have and their amazing brains can be used within the AI new tool framework. It's hard. It's hard to find the bright side of it, but I'm trying.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you. It is hard, especially from a creative lens. And I have a lot of people in my world, colleagues, clients, whatever, that work as graphic designers or whatever that might be for major brands. And they've already seen the shift that instead of them having to sit there and like tediously make all these changes, they're actually just using a chatbot, but you still need to know what to prompt it with. You still need creative ideas of how to prompt it. You still need to do the creative direction because at this point, AI isn't good at that. So you still get to do that. It's really just the execution has changed. We might not be standing behind a video camera anymore or making these small little graphic edits constantly because we can have somebody else do it, but it also doesn't take the creative side away. You still have to be able to see the vision to be able to create it.
It's like there was a creativity totem pole, right? And now everyone's on the same level. There's not just one person at the top that's the director. Like everyone can be a director now. So if we can maybe think of it that way, I think it might save the sustainability movement from so much anguish because I see this in it. I feel it. I feel nervous about a world that's just AI everywhere, especially having like background in art. I do think that there might be a reset where artists kind of thrive despite AI, or maybe they work with it. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I mean, I think in the next 6, 12, 24 months, it'll be insane to see what comes up. Even just looking at this time last year, things have gotten so much better. And I think we're just going to have to take it bit by bit. Like it's going to be figure out how it all goes. But again, it's just where the world is going. And so we need to be able to adapt. Otherwise, you will get left behind in some capacity, just from efficiency's sake.
Yeah. I mean, the AI tools that are out there, I'm still scared of them. I'm never going to be the first person in line to try them. I'll wait until they're like at least a year old and all the bugs are fixed and all these things,
Yeah.
I'm never first in line for those new tools.
I agree. So Kate, to kind of wrap it up here, we've talked a lot about values. We've talked about AI. We've talked about sustainability, greenwashing, making decisions within these values. Is there anything else from building a value-based brand, whether it's a mistake or a key kind of takeaway that you learned that you feel like somebody that is down this same mission, whether it be sustainability or a different value, really needs to know when it comes to building a successful mission-driven brand?
I think the thing that I would tell people is that a lot of people are going to try and sell you kind of green credits, carbon credits, offset. You'll be bombarded with that stuff all the time and you'll feel the pressure to do those things. But if you build your business as sustainable from the very beginning and you know the things that make it sustainable, like for example, the fact that we don't ship to big box retailers and we don't have our products in plastic wrapped pallets, like that's a big, big plastic savings. The fact that we ship from our own facility, either directly to stores or directly to consumer, like that offsets so much carbon credits on our own. We don't need all of this proof all the time. I think if you can avoid being sold all of these extra programs to prove things and just do, you're going to be in a better position. Like you don't need to keep spending money. In the beginning, I kept wanting to like prove things.
Yeah.
But the fact is that because I actually did things, I didn't need all this extra layer of proof. People are very reasonable. If you want to explain something to them, they're like ready to learn. So I think just beware of bad actors trying to get you to pay for things that don't mean anything. Just keep your head down and keep moving forward.
And again, that goes back to the conviction and the confidence that you have in what you've built, that when you know, like I already am offsetting in so many ways, I don't need this. You're positive and you're convicted in what you're building. And that does build over time. In the beginning, it might be a little bit harder to believe that.
Yeah.
But I hope that people that hear you can also see that the confidence has been built. And as long as you make those value-based decisions and that you know you're already offsetting or whatever that looks like, you're already taking these initiatives upon yourself, that it's going to come out at the end of the day as well.
And patience is really important with that, with a build. You don't have to do everything all at once, especially you don't have to know everything from the beginning. You build, you change, and eventually you get to a place where we are, where I can proudly say, like, the system that we've done staying off of Amazon, it works. And we've redirected $5 million back into local economies around the country. Like, that was what I was always set out to do. Besides the plastic free part, I wanted people to go back into stores and find these refill stores. And we did it, but it takes some time to prove it, and once you've proven it, no one can take that away. No one can be like, your method doesn't work, or you should be careful and you need to be on Amazon. It's all noise.
And then you have the proof. And that's how, when people ask me, how do you build confidence? Sometimes you have to be confident in what you're doing before you have proof. And then once you have the proof, you're like, here it is. Look, we've done it. And it's such a testament to what you're building. Kate, I'm so excited to use your dip products later. Where can people find you? Where can people find your store locator? I want people to be able to go find their local zero waste sustainable stores.
Sure. So if you go to dipalready.com, there you will find the Dip website, and you'll see store locator is prominent right at the top. So check it out. See if there's anyone in town that sells dip. We sell in salons, we sell in zero waste stores, and in surf shops. So those are the 3 places you can find us. And then if you want to see our weird social media, that's at Dip Already on Instagram. We're less active on TikTok, but you can find us there too.
Oh, Kate, thank you so much for being here and sharing your wisdom. This is going to be so helpful to so many.
Thank you so much for inviting me. This is amazing.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Business Growth Podcast. We put out new episodes every Tuesday and Friday. So if you love this one, make sure that you're subscribed so you never miss a conversation. If you want more conversations with me and other business owners, make sure that you join our completely free podcast community, the Founders Cafe. The link is in the show notes. You can get bonus resources, access to free coaching calls, as well as connect with like-minded business owners like yourself. Make sure that you rate and review the podcast 5 stars, share it with a friend to keep those conversations moving, and come back every Tuesday and Friday. I'll see you there.